You can't see it, but I've got my grumpy face on. I've got my grumpy face on because this is the second time I've done this video. I did the whole video and then realised, thanks to a helpful comment, I had not got any sound on it. Grump, grump, grump. So, here we go again. Right, I have cut out separate little tan graphs for each question because I'm going to be drawing on them. So if you're not familiar with a graph of tangent, this is it. It's a periodic graph. That means it repeats. In this case, it repeats every 180. So at 0, it's 0. And it shoots off to infinity at 90 and back up from infinity after 90. And then at 180, it's 0 again, and then it repeats. I always, when I do it on a board, in the classroom, I always use a swooshing sound to talk about the tan graph, the tan swoosh. So anyway, here we have the tan swoosh. Because of that, for example, when I look at the value 2, there are 2 places on this graph where the line is the height of 2. So there are 2 solutions to this equation, tan x equals 2. So we can have a look at how to find the second answer, because of course your calculator will only give you one answer unless it really is an all-dancing calculator, in which case you're probably not allowed it in an exam. So let's have a look at the question. Tan x equals 1.73. Now it actually tells us here that the first answer, x, is 60. So I could just find 60 and say, okay, well 60 is here. Let's just check. Yeah, that looks about 1.73. This is very sketchy, by the way. Not as in wrong, as in very vague. If you were doing this in an exam, you wouldn't be expected to draw a perfect tan swoosh. You would just expect to draw a little rough tan swoosh, just so you can see the shape of the graph. The heights, etc., they're not actually important. It's about the shape and the fact that the shape repeats. So we've already got that this one is 60. So we need to think, okay, when does the graph get to that height again? And it's over here. And we go down to the x-axis. We can see it's here. Well, this is 60, which means it's 60 after 0. Well, 0 is the same as 180, so this must be 60 after 180 because the graph repeats itself. So we need to do 180, add 60, and that gives me the answer of 240. Okay. Next one, we've got a negative solution this time, so negative 1.33. It tells us it's 127 degrees. It's going to be about here. Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Where else is the graph that height or that depth? I don't know, it's below 0, it's depth. It's going to be here. Okay, so we can either work backwards from 180 or forwards from 90. I'm going to work forwards from 90. So how far beyond 90 have I gone? Well, I know it's 127 degrees. I've added on 37 degrees. I've moved along 37 degrees, which means from 270, I'm also going to have to move on 37 degrees. So I do 270. That is not how you write 270. Add 37, which gives me 307. Next one. 0.38, which is about here, and the solution we've been given is 201. So 201 is about there. Where else is the graph that high? There. If you look, they're the same height there. Sorry, I'm saying there an awful lot. We know that this mark here is 201 degrees, which means it's 21 degrees further on from 180. Well, this point is after 0, so it must be 21 degrees on from 0. That's 21 degrees on from 0, 21. And then finally, on this page, we've got negative 0.4, and it tells us that the first answer it's giving us is 338, about there. Next time's going to be there. 338 is just before 360. In fact, it's 22 degrees before 360. So we need to go 22 degrees before 180. So we need to do 180, take away 22, which gives me Mine gone blank. 158. 158. Oh my days. There we go. You might notice something about these numbers, particularly the one that is easiest to spot it with is this one here. They're all 180 apart. This one I added 180 to get, I can add 180 to get that one. This answer I can add 180 to get 307. For this answer it's over 180, so I can subtract 180 to get 21. And for this one again, I subtract 180 to get 158. Now by adding and subtracting 180, you could find an infinite number of solutions to the equation tan x equals blah. But you will usually be asked for them in a certain section of the graph. This is asked between 0 and 360. So I could find another one for this by adding on 180 again. If I add on 180 again, it gives me 420. That is not between 0 and 360, so that would not be a valid answer for this question. It is a valid value, but it's not valid in this question. Hopefully that makes sense. But now we've worked out that we've either got to add on 180 or we've got to subtract 180. This second page is going to be much quicker. However, they've not given us the first one. That's all right, because you've got a calculator. If you ask someone over the age of probably about 45, they might talk about slide rules, which meant they had to look it up in a table. But calculators are now completely capable of doing this. So tan x equals 0.55. We need to do the inverse, so we do shift tan 0.55. And that gives me 28.8, but it wants it to the nearest degree, so that's 29. Just check, is that between 0 and 360? Yes, it is. It's valid. Repeat with negative 2.36. You'll notice I use this negative button rather than this button here, which is subtract. Most calculators, it doesn't matter. Get to know your own calculator. Now, I've got this answer here of negative 67. That's not between 0 and 360, so I'm not going to write it in this box. I'm going to write it over here, negative 67. I'm doing all these first, and then I can put my calculator out the way. Tan inverse of 2.48. 68, that is in between 0 and 360. And the next one, negative 0.62. Nope, I can't just write 0.62, don't be daft. 0.62. There we go, 31.79. It's negative 0. I really am not functioning today. There we go, negative 31.7, which is negative 32, doesn't fit between 0 and 360. So, here's our first answer. To get the next answer, we need to add on 180. So do 29, add 180, 209. Now this is an answer, but it's not an answer we want. We need it to be between 0 and 360. So we're going to take our negative 67 and we're going to add on 180. And that's going to give me 118. There we go. Now that is an answer I can use in this question. And then we do it again. We add on 180 to get our second answer, which is 290. Where did I get 118 from? My goodness, I can't read my calculator. And the next one is 293. There we go. Oh, goodness gracious me. If in my defence, it's Sunday. You know, my brain is obviously not in work mode. If we take 68 and we add on 180, it gives me 248. Negative 32. Okay, so we need to add on 180 to give us our first valid answer, because this isn't a valid answer for this question. And when we do negative 32, add on 180, it gives me 148. And then when I add on 180 again, it gives me 328. So tangent graph only. In a minute I'm going to go through in another video the cosine and the sine graphs. In tangent only, to find the next answer or to find the previous answer, you subtract or you add 180. Only works for this type of graph.